to On the Playing Field. I am your host, Coach Cheryl McCormick. Now let's get to it. Hey, Cheryl McCormick here from Gravitational Performance and School of Sports Research Science. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited to have you here. So, before I get started, I want to mention that these episodes are for all high performers. That's right. If you're an athlete, a coach, a parent, a CEO, or maybe even an entrepreneur or anyone else for that matter who works in that tough day-to-day grind, this is for you. So while I specialize in high performance for athletes and coaches, the coolest thing about mental performance and psychology in sports is that it is really just interchangeable. So that means that anyone can really apply these basic concepts to your personal lives. So today is part one of a two-part series. Part one today focuses on the education and understanding of the prefrontal cortex and how it plays a role in your performance. So part two will focus on practical scenarios that focus really on that same subject. In today's discussion, we will focus on essential training areas in performance such as mindfulness, breathing training, imagery, and visualization, some of my favorite topics to go through, among a couple of other areas. So let's get to it. So today I will talk about an important area of the brain that is central to high performance. And again, that is the prefrontal cortex. So this is an area seated right behind the forehead, and it works as your executive command center. That's right, your executive command center. So it manages decision making, planning, impulse control, and emotion regulation. So in high performance moments, it really directs our attention and our focus to detail to what actually matters and what counts, filtering out all other distractions so we can actually execute our movements and decision with precision and precisely. All right, so what does that mean for you? You might be here as an athlete, you might be here as a coach, or somebody else for that matter that's in a high performance job position, okay, or just high performing lifestyle, okay? So what does that mean for you? Well, that means that when you get out there to showcase your skills and to go into competition, so an example would be an athlete, right? Something that I specialize in sports is mainly athlete development and performance, as well as working with coaches. Okay, but that doesn't mean that this isn't interchangeable for you. So please, yes, apply this to yourself. But what does that mean for you? That means that while you're out there where you're about to walk onto that playing in competition field, competitive arena, if you will, what does that mean for you? That means that all the loud, all the crazy that's going on, the coaches yelling to their teammates, maybe depending on the sport, maybe it's track and field, maybe it's a football game, maybe it's a soccer game, whatever, maybe it's a basketball game inside a gymnasium, right? Whatever it may be, think about the loud sounds that you endure in these moments. High pressure, high stress environments that really can take your focus away and distract your process from everything that you've been training hard for and that you know. So what does this mean for you? This means that in these moments, this is to focus that nervous system, refocus our mindset, refocus everything that we train hard for day to day to get out there and be the best, to perform at optimal and peak performance levels, right? And to be able to tune out, mute, get rid of, put those noise canceling ear pods in and get rid of everything else that is going on around you. And that's what we're talking about. And I want to say military, right? Military, this could be a very specific situation in something that you're about to endure. You're going on deployment. You're going to have to train to be at your best. The fear factor is real. Performance anxiety is real on such a different platform, right? You're not out there maybe taking home that first place medal, but you're out there to take home you, right? To come back home in a solid system in one piece. And this means that all the months and years of training, that this is your time, This is your time to execute and show your team leader and show the rest of the guys and girls out there, to show the rest of the world that you have trained so hard to do your best and to showcase your position and to support the country, right? So I want you to think about this, all that loud noise. And also, athletes, high performers in here, coaches, parents, even. Yes, parents. I want you to think about this loud noise. Well, what if I don't have loud noise, coach? Well, Coach McCormick always says loud noise can also be up here. So think about the loud noise that might be going on mentally. All right. It might not always be other things going on around you. It might just be things that are going on mentally. And that's going to be self-talk, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So at the core of its function, okay, at the core of this function is something called the top-down processing. So think of top-down processing as the brain's internal coach. Yes, that's right. You've got a small coach in here, and that would be the self-guided talk right there, and the I know what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Rather than being driven solely by incoming sensory stimuli that's going on around us, that prefrontal cortex uses our goals and prior experiences to really determine what to pay attention to. So when you're in the middle of a challenging sequence or physical movements, the brain is busy flagging and prioritizing those signals. They're crucial for that specific task that you've trained on, that your coach has taught you, your athletic trainers have been working on, while letting less relevant, that noise, information really just fade off into the background. All right, so consider for a moment the interplay between that sharp attention and physical precision. So picture maybe a situation in which an individual must execute a really complex, coordinated movement, say transitioning rapidly from one explosive movement to another, while also maintaining that perfect alignment with their body's rhythm. Okay, in that moment, even if the environment around us is filled with a visual and auditory stimuli, which is loud, crazy, hype moment, that prefrontal cortex is engaged in filtering out that noise. So this is the essence of that top-down processing and action. Again, if you're in the military, this would be that processing. It really allows us to focus on the mechanics of our movement, on the feeling of those muscle activation and timing of our steps, which I like to call in the type of imagery that I love to specialize in is the kinesthetic movement imagery. And then of course on the feeling of that muscle activation rather than what's going on in the background. Focusing on what muscles am I about to use. Maybe you're a track and field athlete. Maybe you're a 100 sprinter, right? 100-meter sprinter. So you're thinking only about like, well, what muscles am I about to use? Well, I'm going to do a block start. And then when I'm kicking off, I'm firing off. That energy is just going straight from my toes, executing through my body. And it's going to be shifting from my delts, posterior delts, and my shoulders. We'll just say that, my shoulders, shifting my arms side to side. Well, what muscle movement do you feel the most? Maybe it's your quads. Maybe it's your hams. We don't know, right? Athletes are tight and work different areas differently. But that's where this is very specific to your training. So building on the understanding, this really becomes clear how developing mental skills, MS, can profoundly impact your physical performance. So one such skill is mindfulness. Now, I'm sure many of you are like, Coach McCormick, that word is so played out, and I get it. It's like the last couple of years, everybody had to be mindful of everything that was going on. We had to really see what we were doing and be like, oh, in the moment, right? The mindfulness. But it's good. Regular mindfulness practice, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes of breathing exercise, which I like to say imagery, visualization, all MST mental skills training is going to fall anywhere from a 5 to 15 minutes max daily. But we'll take for this case a breathing exercise that would be about 5 to 10 minutes. And this is maybe prior to your training or competition, can really strengthen that prefrontal cortex ability to maintain focus. So by simply pausing and centering your mind, you really allow your brain to recognize and suppress those distracting thoughts. Okay, so we're going to think of those thoughts and those emotions, and that's all cognitive. Okay, we're going to think about that as, well, that's something that I continuously feel. I might be looking at somebody. I get this a lot from my athletes. I'm looking at somebody because I know they're really good and I'm going to have to go up against them today. But when I look at them, they just exude confidence and it puts the fear straight at me. And now I'm like, I don't know if I have this. And maybe you're not self-talking in the way that you might think. They start off with the feelings and the thoughts. You're scouting the room. You're allowing yourself to go there. Okay. So if you don't have that resilience built up and the ability to just turn off and mute, as we're talking about today, then that's what's going to happen is your performance is going to be shattered. Performance anxiety can set in. Now, I'm not saying that's what happens. So please listen to that. There's no diagnosing or stating that you have an issue by listening to this today. However, this is educational. Okay. So these are things that can help with those things that can help develop some of those things over time. All right, so over time, this practice really can translate into much greater control and finely tuned response system to that unexpected stimuli that we're talking about, whether that's a sudden change in that movement, and again, just the shifting in the environment. So another cornerstone is visualization. And as I've mentioned, when you imagine something, imagine yourself executing a movement with that perfect and flawless form and timing, perhaps. In your mind's eye, you are in effect priming that same neural circuits that will be engaged during the actual performance. So when you're out there in competition, what you're doing is you're taking all the mental skills training that you have done for months and months prior. Okay, and now you're putting it to use. Now you're firing. Now you're, what I like to say, the third phase of what I do in training is executing. So first I go through this educating, then second implement. That means that you're going to learn how to do it. And then third, you're going to execute and you're going to show me how you know how to do it. All right. And so for those of you that might be saying, Coach McCormick, what is a visualization and imagery training? I think I've heard it before. Well, let me tell you, it's super simple. But it's not very easy to just do. Okay, it's not the same as dreaming. It's not the same as just closing your eyes and thinking of something. It's actually seeing something in the mind's eye. Okay, so it's when we create a scenario and maybe a new one or a former scenario in the mind's eye to go through a series of a series of movements, all in the mind's eye. Now, there's different types of imagery and visualization as well, but we tend to use it more often to remove situations, performance anxiety, the fear factor, remove maybe you've been training yourself improperly for a period of time and you need to stop stepping with your right foot as you're jumping off or whatever it is, right? Flicking the wrist the different way, whatever movement it is in your sport. Okay. And so that's where we're going to pull visualization and imagery training and put that to play. And so with that though, imagery and visualization can also enhance your performance. It can be that you're pulling in a former scenario to replicate that. Well, I'm doing really good and I need to make sure that I'm staying on this great streak of success. I want to make it to Team USA. I want to get on that team and I want to compete at a high elite level. Okay, well, how do we do that? That means that we are pulling in the sensations, the sensory, the natural senses, and we're recreating former great scenarios in the mind's eye. And we do that through a massive process. Okay. So, for example, when an athlete mentally rehearses the controlled sequence of maybe a coordinated move, a brief pause, maybe explosive start. If you're a track athlete, a swift change of direction, perhaps softball, volleyball, anything for that matter in that specific situation. They are actually reinforcing the brain's expectation of that precise series of events, right? When we're practicing ladder drills and footwork and technique in football, you think football? Well, yeah, right? Football, you've got to be able to pivot and change and move in a matter of seconds, and you've got to be on it. You've got to know which way your athletes are if you're a quarterback, okay? So you know where to throw the ball. So with repeated mental imagery, those neural pathways become more robust and making it much easier for the body to really replicate those movements under serious pressure. So let's also discuss the power of positive self-talk. Again, I said this is one of my favorite areas. The language you use with yourself up in here, okay? The language you use with yourself up in here can actually steer your brain's focus. So, for instance, affirmations, what we say to ourselves. Okay. I am in control. Or I trust my body's rhythm. Become cues that actually help direct that prefrontal cortex towards supporting the composure and that clear decision making at critical moments. So, this is particularly useful when that external stimuli, that external environment becomes overwhelming and puts pressure on us. Okay, time's ticking, coach is up there and they're maybe across the way and they're like this to you. Let's go, right? And you're like, all of a sudden you feel yourself closing in. You hear everything, almost everything that you didn't hear 10, 15 minutes prior. Okay. So you need to say, well, these few calm words, again, these are affirmations, mantra, cues, positive self-talk. You say these calm words that can actually refocus your attention on that internal dialogue, if you will, and controlled signals that matter the most to your performance or in your performance. So now as coaches, you play an essential role in shaping this mental landscape. So you might be like, well, yes, I'm a coach. That's right. And that's why you're here. You are the team's leader. You are the athlete's leader. You are the leader. And that means that your job plays an essential, a vital role in shaping the mental landscape for athletes and yourself. I work with coaches across the US, a couple outside, and I'll tell you what a joy it is to work with coaches. I've absolutely loved getting my education in coaching and understanding it, finishing out a doctorate currently right now, almost done. And we'll have a coaching background in my education. And it really is a joy being able to provide this to you because I know coaches just lack the time. You're busy, you're traveling, you're coming up with, the next play, you're coming up with the next protocol and focusing on other players and other teams and what your competition is like and what you're going to have to be doing. And then all the athletes on the team and coming up with new stuff, right? And that's a lot of work. So when do you have time to get in this? Well, now's the time. So it isn't enough to only hone physical strength and agility. So by embedding mental skills training with practice sessions, yes, practice sessions. For instance, starting each session off maybe with guided mindfulness exercises or ending maybe with a visualization cool down. I like to say start off with some breathing exercises and roll yourself into that mindfulness. It kind of just goes hand in hand. You can create an environment where you're where the mind really becomes as well coordinated as the body does. So over time, athletes who regularly use these techniques really do show greater resilience and adaptability when confronted with high pressure situations. All right, so the connection between the mind and the physiological movement is really profound. So I want you to imagine an athlete standing at the cusp of executing a dynamic movement sequence. So their body is ready and their muscles are primed. But what truly differentiates a well prepared performer is really what happens in those crucial seconds before that movement. So when the mind calms the body and the prefrontal cortex kicks into top gear, that's when you know it's time to get after it. So I want you to think about like maybe one of your favorite athletes. I've got all kinds of amazing athletes. I'm so blessed with that opportunity. Perhaps we can think about somebody like Simone Biles, amazing athlete, right? And she's up there on the beam. She's got to be able to actually prime her muscles, prime her mental game, and to be able to execute in seconds, to understand what she's about to do. Take a breather because you'll see her breathing, right? She'll hold her composure and then she does a flip and then she'll do another flip and then she does her beautiful layout. And then you're just like, wow. I mean, I would understand as an athlete how critical that is to understanding that you have to be able to execute in specific dynamic movements, to be able to shift the muscles and to be able to prime your mental as well. Okay. So by integrating these practices, such as those that we've discussed, the athlete can really harness a state of focused readiness, allowing each muscle to really move with intent, every nerve to actually fire and execute perfectly, and every decision to really roll out smoothly. So even when faced with a lot of external distractions, like I am right now. Okay. So, altogether, in summary, in conclusion, if you will, that prefrontal cortex acts as a control center that is essential for high performance. So, that again, that top down processing really allows us to filter out that external noise, external stimuli, and focus on what is really essential into our performance. Okay. So, I want you to think about this too, because in the second half of this, we're going to be discussing scenarios, and then there will be a little bit more scenarios. Perhaps maybe you're a CEO, maybe you're a manager, maybe you work with a team of other professionals. And what does that mean for you? Your boss is out sick, perhaps, and says, Hey, Coach McCormick, you're going to fill in for that presentation. We have got to land that account. We have got to land that job. Okay. What does this mean for you? Okay. So again, that top down processing really can allow you in a position like that to filter out the noise. And that noise most of the time isn't going to come from the chatter around the office or anything else, because you're going to walk into a space, excuse me, and you're going to rehearse, like, do I have everything? Do I have everything written down? Do I know what time? Oh, okay. I'm about to go. I am freaking out. My boss is going to fire me. Okay. If I don't do this right. Well, the reality is that this is for you then. This is for you to understand, how do I filter out that noise? Because that noise is, again, not the people, not the environment necessarily. It could be up here, that self-talk. And we haven't really gone through that. That'll be for another time. But that self-talk can really deteriorate that process. So by developing mental skills such as mindfulness, visualization, positive self-talk, athletes, all high performing individuals can actually prime this system to work more efficiently. So, as both athletes and coaches, embracing these strategies really prepares you not only for those physical demands of high performance, but also those mental challenges. So, these practices really can build a resilient, agile mind, one that really is in control both with the physiological movements and that stream of income sensory input. Okay, so I want you to take note today and identify some of these key areas that I've discussed. Very basic concepts, understanding, if you will. But does this mean something to you? What if you're like, well, I do have these goals? Because trust me, I hear it all of the time from my athletes. Number one goal is to go D1, get recruited, go professional, make Team USA, do this, do that. Amazing goals, amazing dreams. The reality is that most athletes are not doing the work. Most athletes are given the work, and we're telling them, you need to do this in order to see that. Because there will be a time. And even if you're one of the top athletes on your team or the state or whatever it is, maybe in your sport, you still need to be doing this, because there will become that time as you get older and those challenges creep in. There are so many others that want that position from you. In any industry that we're in, there is always somebody that is wanting to come and take that from you. All right. So take a moment now to reflect on these ideas. Think about the next time you face a moment of intense challenge, whether it's that precise execution of a complex movement or making that split-second decision under pressure. And really recognize that by training the mind, you're really settling in that stage. Okay, so you're really paving that platform, paving that stage, setting the stage. There you go, for excellence in every coordinated physiological response.